So first of all, thank you so much for giving me your time. I value what you do because you do so much, Julie. And for our audiences, just education, if you would just share a little bit about who you are in your role in the capacity of running our elections for the county.
Sure. I am the supervisor of elections for Pinellas County, and our core responsibilities is to provide access to voter registration and balance, and also to our ballots. So whether it's by mail, early voting, or election day, and then also making sure that we conduct fair, accurate, and secure elections. So in a nutshell, that's our responsibilities.
Well, it's a big responsibility and you do an amazing job.
Yeah, there's a lot of wrap down around that, but that's the 50,000-foot version of what we do.
I have to say this, a lot of people know that I'm an educator as well as an attorney. And I have to say during most of my years teaching, I used your website, which is has a plethora of really good data and information. So again, I honor what you do and thank you. So now we've gotten through the August 24th primary election.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts about how your office was able to handle it?
I think that it was a success. I mean, it's anytime that we get to conduct that's what we do. There's some counties that go 2 years without conducting elections, and for Pinellas, we a minimum 3 elections per year, which keeps us on our game. We are able to vet out procedures and processes and always get better. We don't like complacency around here. We were always trying to improve our processes. So, we are coming off of legislative session. There were some changes, so we had to implement those during these elections. And I felt that our voters in St. Pete were engaged. It's pretty comparable to what we saw in 2017. We were excited to be able to release almost 80% of election results just minutes after the polls closed. And, we had good participation. I always would like to see 100%. Unfortunately, in some of our municipal elections, we see turnout is below what we see in our even election years. But hopefully our vote, the voters of St. Petersburg will reach new heights in voter turnout for the general election.
Well, I certainly hope so and agree with you. I'm just fascinated with how well St. Petersburg and Pinellas are discussed throughout our country about being the bellwether of predicting elections. And with our electoral diversity and knowing that, how does that impact your election administration, if at all?
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it is so exciting to be in Pinellas County and then on top of it, be in the state of Florida because you're super relevant. And you could be a political analysis pollster and political scientist. You can come to Pinellas County alone and you could, because our electorate is reflective of that of the nation, you could poll. And Pinellas County has a great track record of determining basically predicting who our president's going to be. So I think we've done it all but 2 times since 1963. So that does make us a bellwether county based on our demographics, based on our voter registration for political party. So it's so exciting because all eyes are on us. So it's exciting, but at the same time, it keeps you on your toes because when everyone is looking at you, there are no mulligans. You cannot make mistakes. And that's okay. We recognize it's not a perfect process, but that doesn't mean we don't strive to be perfect. So I love what I do. I love being a part of a process where our voters are super engaged and, their votes matter on a whole nother level.
I love what you said about our voters being super engaged because I'm originally not from here. I'm originally from Illinois, and being a part of this community since late 90s, that was the first thing I noticed is how engaged the community is. I mean, incredibly engaged, which makes a difference when you're trying to discuss issues. And so you have a very small circle, like many professions, but yours is smaller. How do you collaborate with other supervisors around the state?
All the time. So you never want to be the smartest person in the room ever. I recognize that. So every opportunity, I think, so we have 67 supervisors of elections who are all responsible for their counties. We have an association, so we come together and meet annually. But we also have smaller committees for large counties, medium-sized counties, small counties. We have work groups. We have for staff, for SOEs, because you do want to vet out ideas. You want to develop best practices, because yes, you do have the law, but at the same time, what's the best way to carry that out? So if you had this you had if something now is this way versus it was before, how can we make sure that our voters still have access to that ballot, access to the registration process? How do we protect the integrity of the process? So when you get more minds together who come from different perspectives, who have different electorates, who have different challenges, whether that's budget, whether that's sizes of their offices, so on and so forth, it makes you better. And I think that because Florida is a purple state, and on top of it, we're a bellwether county, that level, I think that Florida gets we're on the level of scrutiny on Florida is like no other, but we embrace that, because as far as we're concerned, please come and challenge our procedures, come and challenge it, because the bottom line is that I feel that Florida runs really good elections, and we have set the standard for the nation. And I think that anytime that we can collaborate together within our state, and then opportunities to then go out and do more, like there's an association called the Election Center that I'm a part of, and a lot of supervisors in Florida are, where other states, even though we don't have the same laws necessarily, but there is pieces that you can pull, and we can all make the process better for us as a nation as a whole.
Yeah, thank you for that information, because it is really important. I know with any profession, you count on your peers, but you're right. We have a spotlight on the state of Florida, and particularly on our county. And so I agree that, the more participation you have in collaborating a good product, the better we all are as a community. So we have another election coming up in November locally. How is your office preparing for that?
So we finalized ballot language. So we do have to create ballot styles. There's the city of St. Petersburg has 8 questions. They have a at-large mayoral and 3 council contests that will be on that ballot. So it's about getting that information out to voters, directing voters to our website at votepinellas.com, where they can receive the accurate information. It's really important to make sure voters know deadlines, that they know how the process works, so that they can avoid, kind of getting hooked up, getting caught up in some of the nuances of the election code. And, they sign their mail ballot envelope, they go to the correct polling place, they bring the proper ID. So to avoid delays and other things. So it's important to just be, there's some level of voter responsibility. As much as there's responsibility in our ability to provide information, we still need voters to take that and then and implement it. And I think that anytime that a voter is prepared, you're going to have a better voting experience. From our perspective, we want the forward facing of elections to be, very simple, smooth. You hit the "that was easy" button. It doesn't matter what we had to do to make the election happen, but we want the voters forward facing to be simple, because if it's simple, then voters are more likely to participate again. So that's always our end game. And of course, this election will be our last election of the 2021 election cycle, which will catapult us into 2022, when we will have some things that are going to be interesting. We have redistricting, which is something we'll be conducting for the first time since 2010, which was a county-wide redistricting. where, we're going to minimize change. Obviously, anywhere we can maintain polling places, maintain the same type of precincts, but taking into consideration that there are a lot of lines that may change, but we'll do everything we can to make there's some continuity in the process. But then we're headed with that into a gubernatorial election year. And again, just voter education from our perspective, and making sure that voters have access to registration, access to the ballot, so that we have high voter turnout and we break records every election year. That's our goal.
Well, you're sort of doing my job for me, because you answered the last question I had for you. So now I have to sort of revise it. My last
That's
question
okay. I'm sorry. My
you're
apologies.
great. You're great. My last question was going to be about what advice do you have for voters in the general election, but you answered that really beautifully. So I would say, where do you think that voters should go to get educated? Because you mentioned voter responsibility, and that's a big part of voter education. So any ideas or thoughts as we close?
Yeah, so I think coming off of 2020, I was asked, what is your biggest concern going into the 2020 election? And my number one answer was misinformation. And misinformation actually grew into disinformation, which grew into malinformation. So there's lots of things out there that is just misunderstood. Or somebody's perpetuating something that may not be quite true. And then there's a strategic effort to confuse the electorate. And I think that voters need to go to the source, which is votepinellas.com. Contact our office at 727-464-VOTE. If you have any questions, any doubts, contact us. And then also be a part of the process. You can come to, this whole process is open and transparent. That is like the baseline for our constitutional republic. We want people to be engaged, not just by voting, but if you want to see us testing voting equipment, if you want to see us tabulating ballots, if you want to see us conducting audits, this is something else that I wanted to share in the August primary that we just had for St. Pete. We conducted 100% precinct and contest audit of everything, every vote cast in that election. And the audit proved that the voting system was 100% accurate. And I think that's very important going into the 2022 general election cycle, that we build this confidence in this process, because we should have confidence in it.
You couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Julie. Thank you for your time, and thank you for what you do.